Hey everyone, I'm back again here for another video. I'm basically going to mold these two videos together and talk about two different games at the same time, mostly because I feel like there is almost like a through line between them with everything going on in the world right now. Those two games being Hogwarts Legacy and Atomic Heart. Both of them were released back in February, about a week or two away, a week or two between each other. I'm going to talk about Hogwarts Legacy first because I did play more of it, and then I'm going to move over to Atomic Heart. Hogwarts Legacy is like the first big Harry Potter game that's come out in like forever. I want to say there was like some sort of Hogwarts game on the PS3 for like the eye camera, but I can't remember it right now. And it's by WB Interactive. And it's by Portkey Games and Avalanche Studios. Avalanche Studios hasn't really been known for anything except for a Cars game back in the day, so this is their first crack at a AAA game. Now, I will say that I did read and watch the Harry Potter books and films growing up. After playing this game, I actually have a hankering to jump back into the movies again because I do own all of them through my Apple account. And it takes place in the 1890s, so it's way before any of the main characters from the books are in play. So every single character you meet is brand new. Basically, your character is like a Mary Sue. It's a super OP character. They are a new fifth year student who has this special ability to see ancient magic, which gives them all these special abilities. And there's this goblin uprising that are trying to steal this ancient magic. And it's your character's responsibility to stop the goblins from attaining this power. The main goblin is called Ranrock. He's a super powerful goblin who has his ancient magic, and he wants to use it to overthrow wizard kind and have the goblin race take over the world. You've got a professor next to you named Professor Fig. He's like your guide and your mentor during the game. And then there's a bunch of different other professors for all the different classes that you're going to take. Pretty simple, when you take these classes, by taking the classes, you end up learning new spells. There's around 25 or so spells altogether, and a third of them are basically just spells for puzzles. And you can use the unforgivable spells as well that are in the game, including Avada Kedavra, which is like the killing curse. You get these different spells, the unforgivable spells, through side quests with a companion named Sebastian Sallow. He's a Slytherin character. And through his plot line, you have to basically learn these spells in an attempt to try and cure his sister, who's been hit with this unforgivable curse and is slowly dying. Out of all the side student characters that you meet, Sebastian's the only one that's actually interesting. He's the only one that I found motivated to see his story through. The other ones through Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaw characters, completely forgettable in my opinion. I didn't even bother with their side missions the farther in I got on the game and the closer I got to the ending. I basically just stuck with Sebastian's storyline so I could learn the unforgivable curses and actually use them. The most unfortunate part of that is you learn the Avada Kedavra curse right at the very end of the game. Like right there at the end. Like I picked it up with 2 main missions left, and then I was done the main game for the story. And that was a bit disappointing if I'm being completely honest. I would have liked to have maybe potentially picked up the Avada Kedavra spell a lot earlier in the game so that you could use it more frequently. I understand it's like an OP spell, but it's kind of the point of learning the dark arts is you have these really powerful spells. You can actually upgrade it through a skill tree so that every single character that's cursed with the Crucio curse or any other curse, if you hit someone with Avada Kedavra, any other character that has been cursed is immediately killed with it as well. So it is definitely an OP spell, but that's what's so great about it, and it does take longer to recharge compared to the other spells that are available. With this being an open world RPG, it's like any other RPG you've played, whether it be Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, or The Witcher. So the map is just littered with side missions. There's these Merlin trials, which are these puzzles. And by unlocking enough of these trials, it allows you to hold more inventory for your different articles of clothing. The clothing works just like a Destiny game or in the newer Assassin's Creeds. So you have like a glove, you've got a hat, you've got glasses, and you've got a coat and then an undershirt. And by changing these or getting new pieces of clothing, it increases your offense and it increases your defense. And you can add buffs to them to increase damage with certain spells or to reduce damage against certain enemies. You are able to transmogrify the appearance of these different clothing. So if there's a certain jacket or a certain coat, shirt, glasses that you like, you can immediately keep it there even when you want to wear something different, which is great. But it is a little tedious because with every time that you get a new piece of clothing that is more powerful than the next, you have to open up your menu, you have to go to the gear option menu, and then you have to click on it, find the more powerful article of clothing, select it, drop out, hit the square button, then transmogrify the appearance every single time. So I do feel like there's a lot of times where I was constantly going into the menu to change the article of clothing to what I wanted, which wasn't great. I was like, okay, this takes up a lot of time. The enemy variety is also pretty slim for the most part. You'll have basically dark wizards, goblins, spiders, and the occasional troll from time to time, and that's really it. And then these things called the Inferi, which are these like zombie undead things, but you don't see those very often. So there's only about five to maybe half a dozen or so different enemy types. You're going to be killing a lot of them throughout your playthrough. The story as well, it kind of gives you the option at the end to choose like the good ending or the so-called evil ending. But the way they set your character up, it just seems completely inauthentic to allow you to choose the evil ending. Like I went into this game at the start, one, I picked Slytherin, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be like an evil Slytherin, and I'm gonna be evil and all this stuff. And oh yeah, of course I'll learn the unforgivable curses. But the character, he always acts like a good guy. He always defends people if they're being bullied or are in trouble. You never really have the option to like show contempt for other characters. There are certain side missions where all the side missions are fetch quests. Grab this character, this item, and you get a reward. And there are certain times during these where once you return to the character to return the quest item, you get three options. You either can give the character the item, you can refuse to give the character the item, or you can promise to give the character the item for a reward. So I always chose the option to get a reward for it, and sometimes a few characters, maybe actually just one, showed like were like upset that I like made them pay me for doing their task. So when I was given the option at the end of the game to choose between like the good ending or the evil ending, like I actually ended up picking the good ending because I was like, man, I don't feel like my character's ever really been that evil throughout the whole story, and I didn't feel comfortable picking it, which annoyed me. It's not like other RPGs where when you got to choose the evil path, you really got to go down that evil path throughout the entire storyline with different dialogue options and decisions. And it also doesn't really matter the decision you make. Characters don't really die depending on what decision you make. They don't. Your relationship doesn't really seem to be that affected. So it also all feels kind of hollow. This idea that you can choose your ending feels like an illusion, ironically, more than anything. Choosing a different house also doesn't affect anything within the story. I kind of thought at first, not that I did a ton of research on the game, but I was wondering if, oh, if you pick, Gryffindor, you get this buff, or you get this special ability, or if you choose Slytherin, you get this buff or this ability. But it really doesn't matter. It's completely cosmetic at the end of the day. You can create like potions for your health, and you can also choose them to give you certain buffs throughout the combat. But the combat, I mean, I didn't really use much of the potions until like the very, very end of the game, when I felt like it was necessary, because the enemies became like they leveled up a lot quicker, and they were typically near the end of the game always a few levels above you. So then you really did at that point rely on having to use the potions to give you like a damage boost or a defense boost. And the way you have to brew the potions in the game, you actually have to sit in front of a potion machine and make them. And it actually takes like time to do it, which is annoying. You can get this special potion table that allows you to make 3 different potions at a time, but you have to go to each burner individually and start the process. And the Wiggenweld potions, which are for health, they take about 15 seconds, but the other potions take like a minute or more. And I would have preferred if they could have gamified this more and just allows you to press a button on the potion machine and just instantly make whatever potion you want. I understand in the game, like, yeah, you do have to make a potion, it takes time, but I don't think it's a bad idea to gamify certain things here or there. Now look, overall the game does not break any new ground. It's it's a collectathon, it's an RPG, but it's a fun one. The wand combat works really, really well. You hit R2 to attack the enemy, and then you can use the 4 face buttons to attach special spells for special attacks. And through the skill tree, you can add more of these. So you can hold down the R2 button and then hit one of the directional pads, and it'll pull up a new set of 4 spells. Um, Works overall pretty good. I did find though that at certain points during combat, it can be so frenetic that trying to remember, like, okay, which one had this spell, which one had that spell. I felt a lot of times I was really like struggling to like flip through the proper spell set that I wanted. And so maybe there could have been a different way to, maybe I just wasn't doing it right. But that was my only one complaint, would be the fact that I feel like toggling spells, I mean, I just feel like at times it was a little too hard, because you have to hold down the R2 button when you want to flip through the different um, spell sets that you have. But the R2 button's also used to attack. So you're trying to attack and you're trying to, it just, for me, it felt like it was getting a little difficult and frantic at times. I feel like it would have been better if you could just hit the directional button during combat and it would automatically just toggle without having to hold the R2 button. Because what are the, yeah, because the directional buttons aren't used for anything outside of Revelio, which is like a way to reveal treasures and items and stuff like that when you're exploring the world. But I feel like they easily could have just made it so that when you're in combat, those things don't work and you can just hit the face buttons. I think that would have been easier. It would have been easier instead of having to hold down the R2 button. If you enjoy Harry Potter, I highly recommend that you pick up this game. If you don't really care for Harry Potter, I don't really know. I don't know if this is going to grab you, because at the beginning of the game, for me, like I spent a lot of time just exploring the world because I'm such a huge Harry Potter fan. There's this big wow factor for me when you first unlock the broom and you're able to fly all around the map on the broom. It's like, wow, I'm actually flying on a broom, like this thing you've always wanted to do with Harry Potter, and now we can actually do it in this open world that's massive, absolutely massive. And that was like astonishing for me. But maybe if you're not a Harry Potter fan, you just don't care. Or if it doesn't hit you. I remember kind of laughing or kind of doing that the DiCaprio meme of pointing at the screen when I discovered certain things from the books or the movies that I thought I remembered and was like, oh, it's so cool. And if you aren't a Harry Potter fan, that's not going to hit you the same way. So if you're not a Harry Potter fan, you might not really care enough about this game to get it full price, or at the very least, maybe just wait for it to end up on sale at some point in the near future. But this game is extremely popular. I think I just saw something online today that it's made like already $800,000, which is more than like any of the, or at least they did say in the tweet, it was more than what the last Harry Potter movie made. I mean, this is just an astonishing financial success for WB Interactive and Avalanche Studios. There's going to be a sequel for this game, which I can't wait to play. Overall, it took me around 23 hours to beat the game, at least the main story. There's still a lot more side quests for me to do, just like any other open world game, but I do feel completely satisfied. I really don't think I'm going to jump back into the story. I know there's like a true ending, which, spoiler alert, basically involves your team, your house winning the house cup because you've made enough. It's just like, it's a whatever kind of thing. And I just don't really feel the need to do that. I feel like I saw the story end, so that's that. But that's it. I'm very, very satisfied. I don't feel like I need to put in more hours to justify the cost. One thing that I think has damaged modern gaming is studios feeling like they have to justify the price tag by just filling the game with shit. Just, you have to do more, you have to do more, you have to put more and more and more and more and more and more hours into this game. You have to put in 50 hours, you have to put in this, you have to put in that. I put in 23 hours on this game. I'm happy. I don't need to put any more hours in. I don't feel like I was cheapened out by this experience. I don't feel like I needed more, and I'm happy, and I'm done. And I'm going to jump back into something else now. I bought The Last of Us Part 1 for the PS5. So I'll probably hop back into that now and replay that for the fifth or sixth time that I've played that game. Destiny 2. I've never played Destiny 2. It's free on PlayStation Plus this month. So I picked that up. Might start that. So there's other things for me to just play, so I'm not going to feel the need to do anything more with Hogwarts Legacy. Now to hop into Atomic Heart. I was really excited for Atomic Heart when it first came out. It looked amazing. I was really, really excited. And I got it through Xbox Series X with Game Pass, so it was free. And I literally quit the game after 4.5 hours. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I just felt like the game was really, really tedious. For one thing, the combat is terrible. The first couple hours relies really heavily on melee combat, and it takes forever for your character to defeat enemies. And then the gunplay itself is very unsatisfying, and everything seems tedious. For the first few hours in the game, you're trapped in this lab, whatever you want to call it. And in order to escape, you have to pick up these 3 different cartridges and shove them into this thing, and it will unlock the door and allow you to escape. And there's a lot of puzzles which feel really tedious. And then there's combat as well, which also seems really tedious. And it just feels like everything is this giant slog to get through. And it just was never fun. I never felt like I was having fun while playing this game. And my free time is so valuable now. I don't have the patience to just suck it up and say, "Oh, it gets good after 8 hours. It gets good after 9 hours." I don't care. I don't have the time to waste to do that. It clearly is trying to be BioShock, and it very obviously is, but it just doesn't do anything even half as good as what BioShock did. And then it feels like it's also trying to be like Dying Light or Dead Island with the melee combat, but the melee combat is so stiff and janky that once again it does everything it's trying to copy half as good. And that's just not good enough. I'm sorry, it is not good enough in this day and age. If I had paid full price for this game, I would have been so pissed off. And I wanted this game to be good. I really, really did. And I was absolutely gutted when I decided to just delete it. And the game itself seems to be getting pretty lukewarm reviews, so I'm not the only one. I am seeing people online who are actually saying that this game is good and that it's a breath of fresh air. And I think those people are just insane. I think it's completely insane. If you think this game is actually anything above mid, I think you're either A, someone who will happily just like accept any shit that's shoveled down their mouth by developers, or B, you want to sound like edgy and based because you're supporting a game that's made by a Russian developer. And that's the point that allows me to tie in these two games, and that's why I'm putting them all in one video. You know, Hogwarts Legacy got dragged into this culture war because of J.K. Rowling and a lot of her opinions over the past year or so about transgender people and transgender women. And so there's this huge boycott to try to stop this game from being made and being supported. And then it ends up being WB Interactive's biggest video game ever. So this boycott attempt by this cancel culture completely backfired, and perhaps may be viewed as the beginning of the end of this idea of cancel culture and, you know, the culture war as a whole. And then on the other end, you have Atomic Heart. Once again, people wanting to boycott it because of it's made by a Russian studio, and with everything going on between Russia and Ukraine, a lot of people didn't want to support it and didn't think it was a good idea because they didn't want money going back into, you know, the Russian government's pockets with the sales of this game. And the government of Ukraine has actually sent out a letter, or they're planning on sending out a letter to try to dissuade Xbox and PlayStation from actually selling the game on their online stores. And the game comes out and it's a complete, you know, flop, in my opinion, from a gameplay perspective. I know that with Game Pass, you know, the studio may be able to say that it's very popular because so many people played it, but maybe the only reason why people are playing it is because it's free. I would not recommend picking up Atomic Heart until it's like half off. It's not a full price game, and I think it's just very, very funny that you got Hogwarts Legacy that is extremely, extremely good, and then you got Atomic Heart that gets the same amount of vitriol, and it's like totally a dud, and it doesn't even matter. And it's like, you can't even say that the cancel culture canceled the game because the game failed on its own merits by not being good enough. Simply put, it was not good enough. So yeah, I know this game, or not this game, I'm sorry. This video is mostly about Hogwarts Legacy and me talking about it, but that's because it just simply is the far superior game. Doesn't break any ground, but it does what it needs to do really, really well, in the same vein that a lot of other open world games do things well. While Atomic Heart, on the other hand, is just a cheap imitation of a lot of other really great games that it can't hold the candle to. And that's that. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.